There are men who walk into rooms and immediately understand that the room has already decided something about them. And there are men who walk into those same rooms, absorb that decision, say nothing, and come back the next morning as the person who signs a room's paychecks. This is the story of Reginald Cross and the lobby that misjudged him. The Harlow Grand Hotel occupied the corner of Michigan Avenue and East Ontario Street in Chicago. 42 floors of polished marble and carefully curated silence. The kind of hotel that charged $800 a night for the privilege of sleeping inside its particular quality of quiet. It had 4 restaurants, 2 rooftop bars, a spa that required a separate reservation, and a lobby that had been photographed enough times that guests sometimes recognized it before they arrived. Reginald walked through the revolving doors at 3:17 on a Tuesday afternoon in his father's canvas jacket. It was an olive green field jacket, the kind manufactured in the early 1980s that Reginald's father, a man named Arthur Cross, who had spent 22 years building small businesses from storefronts in Atlanta's West End, had worn through every season without replacement. The jacket had brass buttons, 2 chest pockets with worn flap closures, and a small tear at the left elbow that Arthur had repaired himself with dark green thread that did not quite match. Reginald had inherited it, along with everything else Arthur left behind, and he wore it on every solo trip. Not out of sentimentality, but out of a principle his father had articulated once at a kitchen table, and that Reginald had never found reason to revise. Arthur had said, "A man who forgets where he came from forgets who he is." Reginald had not forgotten. He had also, in the 23 years since his father passed that jacket across a hospital bed in Atlanta, built Cross Hospitality Group into one of the most significant privately held hotel acquisition and management companies in the country, 27 properties across 14 cities, with a development pipeline his CFO described, with characteristic understatement, as ambitious. He had done it with the focused, unhurried precision of a man who understood that the distance between where he started and where he was going was simply work applied consistently over time. 3 weeks earlier, Cross Hospitality Group had completed the acquisition of the Harlow Grand. Reginald had not announced the acquisition to the hotel's existing management. He had learned, over 23 years of acquiring properties, that the single most useful thing he could do in the weeks after a new acquisition was to visit alone, unannounced, in a canvas jacket, and observe how the hotel treated a man who did not look like he belonged there. It told him, reliably and immediately, everything he needed to know about the culture he had acquired. He had not expected the Harlow Grand to fail this particular test within 4 minutes of his arrival. The lobby was busy at 3:17. Check-in line at the front desk, a tour group assembling near the elevator bank, business travelers comparing phones near the bar. Reginald moved toward the bar, intending to sit, observe the room, and order coffee. He did not make it to the bar. Sloane Mercer, the Harlow Grand's general manager, had been crossing the lobby when she noticed him. She stopped. She looked at the canvas jacket. She looked at the worn sneakers, running shoes, the kind that suggested a man who had not planned his outfit around the lobby he was entering. She looked at the absence of luggage beyond a single canvas shoulder bag that matched the jacket in both age and origin. She made a decision in approximately 4 seconds. She had been making this particular kind of decision for 11 years of hotel management, so many times that it no longer felt like a decision. It felt like professional instinct. She walked to the security desk and spoke to the head of security in a voice pitched carefully to carry to the check-in queue without being technically loud. She said, "Please escort this gentleman out. He's been loitering near the bar, and I don't think he understands what kind of establishment this is." The head of security walked toward Reginald. Professional about it, a quiet word. The particular neutrality of a man following instruction from someone with authority over his employment. Reginald looked at him for a moment. Then he looked briefly at Sloane, who was standing 15 feet away, watching with a satisfied posture of someone who has handled the situation correctly. He said, "Of course." He said the way you say something when you have understood everything about the moment you are in and have decided to let it complete itself on its own terms. He thanked the security officer. He walked to the revolving door. He pushed through it. On Michigan Avenue, Reginald stood on the sidewalk for a moment. The afternoon was cool, the lake wind coming off the east in particular way it did in October. He put his hands in the jacket's chest pockets. His father's habit, absorbed without noticing. Then he said quietly, to no one in particular, "My father wore this jacket for 22 years. He built 3 businesses in it. Nobody who mattered ever looked at the jacket." He flagged a cab. Victor Osei had been the Harlow Grand's head of concierge for 22 years. He was 61 years old and had spent his entire professional life in that lobby, watching 10 general managers come and go, understanding with the particular wisdom of someone who has observed a great many people reveal themselves in hotel lobbies that the building would outlast any individual's mistakes. He had been at his concierge desk when Sloane made her call. He had watched. He had said nothing. That evening at 5:47, the outgoing ownership's attorney delivered the formal acquisition documentation to the hotel's administrative offices. Victor received it as part of his standard end-of-day processing. He opened the package, read the first page, and found the name of the acquiring entity's sole owner and CEO, Reginald Arthur Cross. Victor sat back in his chair. He thought about the man in the canvas jacket. He thought about Sloane's voice in the lobby at 3:17. He thought about 22 years of watching this building make decisions about people, and the particular look he had learned to recognize on the faces of those who had been made to feel they did not belong in a room they had every right to be in. He picked up the phone. Reginald answered on the second ring. Victor said, "Mr. Cross, my name is Victor Osei. I am the head of concierge at the Harlow Grand. I believe you visited the property this afternoon. I want to call personally and say I am sorry for what happened in that lobby. It should not have happened." There was a brief silence. Reginald said, "What time do you start tomorrow, Victor?" Victor said, 7 o'clock, sir." Reginald said, "I will be there at 7:15. Sloane Mercer spent Tuesday evening at dinner with her deputy manager at a restaurant 2 blocks from the hotel, in a particular good mood that follows what she considered a well-managed afternoon. She had handled something correctly. She had protected the hotel's lobby from a presence that did not fit, and the lobby had remained exactly what the Harlow Grand's guests expected it to be: curated, controlled, consistent. She described the incident with satisfaction, using phrases like brand integrity and guest environment management. She noted that she had been professional. No raised voices, no confrontation. A clean resolution the guest himself had accepted without resistance. She said, "That is what 11 years of this work looks like. You read the room in 4 seconds, and you act. Every time." She ordered dessert. She was back at her apartment by 9:30, feeling, in the quiet way of someone who has not yet received the information that will restructure that feeling entirely, that the day had been handled well. At 7:14 the following morning, a black town car pulled up to the Harlow Grand's Michigan Avenue entrance. Reginald stepped out in the canvas jacket. Victor was at the entrance before the doorman could move, not running, not performing urgency, simply present in the way of someone who has decided that this particular moment warrants his personal attention. He opened the door. He said, "Good morning, Mr. Cross. Welcome to the Harlow Grand." The lobby was in its early morning configuration, quieter than the afternoon, the overnight staff completing their handover, the breakfast service beginning in the main restaurant. It was, in almost every physical detail, identical to the lobby of the previous afternoon. Reginald walked through it slowly. He looked at the bar he had been heading toward when security intercepted him. He looked at the check-in desk, the elevator bank, the concierge station where Victor had stood the evening before and made the call that changed the trajectory of this morning. He stopped in the center of the lobby. Sloane Mercer, arriving for her 7:30 start, came through the staff entrance at 7:22 and saw Victor standing at the lobby center beside a man she recognized immediately. The canvas jacket, the shoulders, the unhurried posture. She stopped walking. Victor looked at her across the lobby with the expression of a man who has spent 22 years watching people recognize, too late, the shape of what they have done. He said, in his normal lobby voice, not loud, not theatrical, simply clear, "Ms. Mercer, I would like to introduce you to Mr. Reginald Cross. He is the owner of the Harlow Grand." There was a quality of stillness in the lobby that communicated itself the way consequential information always does in shared physical spaces. The slight adjustment of posture, the redirection of attention. People becoming very focused on what they were doing while listening extremely carefully. Sloane's expression moved through confusion, then the specific recalibration of a person assembling, piece by piece, the full shape of what the past 18 hours had actually been. She said, "Mr. Cross, I was not aware of that." Reginald looked at her for a moment. He had already processed everything he needed to process. He was simply allowing her the time she needed to complete her own sentence. He said, "I know." He said it without inflection, without cruelty, without any of the satisfaction the moment might have permitted him to perform. He said it the way you state a fact that requires no amplification. He said, "Victor, I'd like a coffee at the bar, and I will need a meeting room for 9 o'clock, full management team." Victor said, "Of course, sir." Reginald walked to the bar. The management meeting that morning lasted 2 hours. Reginald ran it with the precision he brought to every property review, structured, specific, focus on systems rather than individuals. He did not reference what had happened in the lobby the previous afternoon. He identified 3 areas requiring immediate structural review, assigned ownership to each, and closed a meeting. Sloane Mercer's contract was placed under formal review within the week. The review was thorough. It considered the totality of her performance record, which contained genuine competencies, alongside a documented pattern of guest assessment, decisions the review characterized as inconsistent with the company's stated values around inclusive service standards. Her contract was not renewed at its next term. She was professional about it. She accepted the outcome with composure of someone who understood, on some level, that outcomes of origins and that this one had a precise and identifiable point of departure. The hotel continued. Victor Osei continued, at the same desk, in the same position, doing the work he had always done. He found, in the months following the acquisition, that the new ownership's approach confirmed what he had suspected when he made the call on Tuesday evening. That the kind of man who wears a 20-year-old jacket into a 5-star hotel because he believes no man should forget where he came from is exactly the kind of man you want running the building. Some months later, a journalist profiling Cross Hospitality Group asked Reginald why he always visited new acquisitions unannounced and in plain clothes. Reginald thought about it for a moment. He said, "A hotel is not its marble floors or its thread count. It is what happens to the person who walks in looking like they might not belong. That tells you everything about the culture you have actually bought. My father spent 22 years building things in this jacket, while people decided whether or not he belonged in the rooms he was entering. He always knew what he was worth. They just did not know that he knew." He picked up his coffee. Victor, reading the profile 2 weeks later at his concierge desk, set his phone down and looked out the lobby. The same marble, the same light, the same morning configuration he had watched for 22 years. He thought about a man in a canvas jacket walking back through that revolving door on a Wednesday morning at 7:15, unhurried and entirely certain of himself, while the lobby slowly understood what it was looking at. He always knew, if this story stayed with you, share it with someone who has ever been judged by what they were wearing before anyone asked what they had built. And tell me in the comments, who do you think made the bigger mistake? Sloane for what she said, or the hotel for not training its staff to know who owned the building? I will see you in the next story.